This week, we got a scorching hot take on conference realignment, and everyone missed it. Why did everybody miss it? Why did nobody hear it? Why is nobody aware of it? Well, if you're watching me on YouTube right now, which I assume you are because it's the only place I put this video, you didn't see this clip. You had no idea that it happened, but it did in audio-only form. Now, I know you guys have very strong opinions about the person that I'm going to play a clip from here in just a moment. But as I've told you in the past, I don't care what your thoughts are on this individual. I truly don't. I think that this carries a lot of weight. I think that this clip is a very big deal. And so we're going to play it. We're going to talk about it. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts on what wasn't said in this clip and what's coming for Florida State and the ACC. Let's play that clip.
TJ from Moron Mountain, good people on Moron Mountain, he said, can you expound on your water gif from Twitter this week in relation to the ACC? Yeah, I think the ACC is kind of sort of screwed. I think the future of the conference will look radically different than it does now. There are powerful entities that are well-motivated and well-financially backed that want out. In other words, FSU. And they're not alone. I think they're going to get out. I put that GIF out earlier this week because I have not talked about this publicly, by the way. I have acquaintances, shall we say. I have contacts in the legal community. These are not contacts I would normally have. I came about these contacts in a very interesting way, but I have them. And they're on the legal side of this. And they're not necessarily on the football side. They're just on the legal side. I don't even know if they're aware of what Florida State's mascot is, but they're on the legal side. And I've gotten as much intel as they can give me throughout this whole thing. It's coming. I put the GIF out. I don't know what the timeline is. I just know that this is the kind of person who is not one for hyperbole. Frankly, I don't even think they care about the ramifications over on the college side or the conference realignment side, but they know I do. And they know people like us do. So they threw that at me, and I asked a bunch of questions, and I got some answers I can't share. But the long and short of it is, I think that the reconstruction or reconfiguration of the ACC is pretty imminent. And I don't certainly no action is going to happen before this season, but it wouldn't stun me at all if we heard news on this front before this season starts. And that's, 9 Saturdays away. So, yeah. If that gives you any idea of what kind of timetable we're working on, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we had some breaking news stories or several breaking news stories. And knowing some of the folks that work on those stories, I can wholeheartedly tell you those stories are in the oven as we speak. So that's what the water GIF was about.
All right, so that was Pate, obviously. And I know some of you don't like him. Some of you still hold the college football playoff stuff again. That's fine. I don't care. He's not one to just come out and say things or make claims that he's not really confident in. But what did he say? Well, first of all, he said the ACC is screwed. He started out by, first he told you it was TJ from Moron Mountain, so you're welcome for that, because everybody who watches our realignment video says that I'm a moron when we talk. But ACC is screwed. That's the way he started out. It wasn't Florida State is screwed. You read the message boards that are non-FSU related, or you read the comments of some of our videos here on College Football Addiction, and people are saying that Florida State's in trouble. They're never going to get out. This is not happening. Pate starts out his argument, his comment, his diatribe with the ACC is screwed. I'm not going to sit here and take a victory lap for anything, but I've been telling you that for over a year, that the ACC is screwed. You're starting to see more and more people agree with that. And pretty much just tell you that's what's going to happen. He says the future of the conference is going to look radically different now, or different soon than it does now. Powerful entities that are well-motivated and well-financially backed that want out. He said, in other words, Florida State. Powerful entities that are well-motivated and well-financially backed. That kind of blows a hole in the narrative of Florida State's broke. Florida State's going to have to pay $571 million. Florida State's got to pony all this money up to do this or that. Now, I think Florida State is going to have to settle for an amount. I don't know what that amount is. The numbers that I've kind of heard tossed around are between $100 and $200 million. We'll see if it's something different. I'm not staking my life to that. I'm not staking a claim to, it's certainly under 200. If it's more, it's more. I know it's under 500. I know that we're not paying that, but this whole Florida State is broke. This whole narrative of they'll never be able to afford their way out. Pate says that Florida State powerful entities are well motivated and well financially backed. He says Florida State's not alone in this. He mentions his contacts on the legal side of things, told him to get ready, it's coming. I like that he mentioned his legal contacts are not necessarily football fans. It's not me or you, or it's not some message board poster that's been continuing on in an epic thread of little bits of information here and there and leaving breadcrumbs. No, they're just legal minds who knows how he got these contacts, but told him to get ready, it's coming. He said the reconstruction or the reconfiguration of the ACC is imminent. Doesn't necessarily have a timeline, but while he doesn't necessarily expect action before the season, he says it wouldn't surprise him to hear news on this front before the season starts. What did he mention? That's 9 Saturdays away. What have we been pretty consistent with? We've moved some timelines around. We've talked about some different dates that things could happen by or might happen by. We have been very consistent in trying to tell you that I believe that this will happen. I believe we will announce an exit from the conference before the deadline for 2025, which would be, I think it's on or around August 15th. I don't have that date right in front of me. Probably should have looked it up before we got on here, but we go on. He said, knowing the people who work on these types of breaking news stories, it wouldn't surprise me at all if some of those stories are in the oven. They're baking right now. They're getting ready to be done. Now, again, I think we've been pretty consistent on that. Even back to last year when that first Board of Trustees meeting happened, when the first conversations between Chair Collins and Drew Weatherford and Michael Alford and all these people are around, we said, man, it's probably unlikely that they announce it in the next 2 weeks, that it gets done before the 2024 deadline. But I think there's a pretty good chance it happens before 2025. And over the last year, we've been consistent with that. I still think Florida State will announce that they're leaving this conference before the middle of August. And that lines up with what Pate just said. Pate said it's probably going to happen before the season starts. Well, guess what? We start just 2 weeks after that. So if it was going to happen before the season starts, wouldn't it just happen before that deadline? Now, I know there's some of you out here, there's some of you watching that have objections. I'm going to talk to you about those objections. I'm going to talk to you about some of your concerns, some of your whining before you hit the comments. Let's talk about this first. Before I go into that, I will tell you, you need to go over and check out my friends over at gotspears.com. They've got a 6-foot spear right now for just $100. That's a limited time offer. They've got one with the 6-foot torch that's $165. It's also very limited on time. You need to go get that today if you want the best deal, the lowest deal that I've ever seen for the 6-footers. That's usually an in-person price. That's hey, we're out at a market, we're out at a festival, we're out here before the games. That's that price. Go get you a 6-foot torch right now, either with or without the torch. Gotspears.com. Look them up. Great guys. They do a great job. All these commitment edits that you're seeing everybody else, Got Spears. Make sure that you go grab yours today. I told you a second ago, Pate doesn't say things like this without being certain. And you guys, some of you guys from the smaller ACC schools, right? Not the Clemsons, not the Carolinas, not the Miamis even. Some of you guys from the smaller ACC schools have been telling me how wrong I am for over a year. You've been telling me that there's no chance that this is happening. There's no way that this is happening. You're going to be there till 2036. And that's fine. You can think that I'm crazy. You can think that I'm a loon. But if you think that Josh Pate is willing to stake his entire credibility on something that's incorrect, Josh Pate is not watching this channel regularly. I know he's watched it before. We've seen him in the comments. But he's not watching this channel regularly just to get wild conspiracy theories on what Florida State might do. He's not saying things like this without being absolutely certain. And again, this is what we've been telling you for over a year now. This is not something new for us. I know that Pate's just kind of finally going on the record with it. Pate's been told about it now, but our contacts at Florida State, our contacts in the community have been telling us this for a while. And now you're starting to see more national names come on and say it as well. My expectation is that Florida State would always announce a departure before the 2025 season, but people say, wait, what about the lawsuit? What about what's going on in court? You're doing the updates with Doug. How do they ask to be let out of the conference while all that's going on? Well, it's been my belief, and it's been my point that the lawsuit does not need to be wrapped up for this to happen. People say there's no way that's possible. They'll have to finish the lawsuit before they can leave, and I don't believe that for a second. If there wasn't a lawsuit going on right now and Florida State announced that they were leaving, the ACC would simply say, hey, you can leave. You owe us this amount of money. And Florida State would say, we don't owe you that amount of money. We're not going to pay you that amount of money. And then what would happen? The two would go to court and they would work out what that is. But it doesn't really matter. They would already be separated at that point. They would just be working on what that dollar amount is, what that negotiation is, whether that's an internal negotiation between the two parties, whether that's through the courts like they're doing now, whether that's mediation, so a little bit of both, doesn't matter. That's what they'd be working on. And so Florida State has already started that process. And so leaving the conference is not dependent on wrapping up the lawsuit. They can announce that they're leaving the conference tomorrow if they want to. I'd love if they did. But they could announce that tomorrow and things would just proceed on. Might it pick up the pace a little bit in the lawsuits? I don't know. Maybe. You've seen the slow wheels of justice and how they turn ever so slowly just by our conversations with Doug on this channel. Now, people ask about the composition clause. And they say, TJ, you've mentioned the fact that Florida State could potentially leave the conference or announce that they were leaving the conference even before that middle of August deadline. And I do still think that that's a possibility. I think what would have to happen there, and that's in 8 days, SMU's joining on July 1st, but I think what would have to happen there is you'd have to have another school or two in lockstep with you. Could that be Clemson? You're seeing more and more chatter of Clemson maybe stepping forward and maybe making some noise pop up, whether that's message board fodder or that's just different attorneys speculating. I think for you to truly break it all down and trigger that composition clause, which allows ESPN out of the agreement if a couple of teams leave, you'd have to have more than just FSU doing it. And is that a risk that Clemson's willing to take? Is that something that Clemson's willing to do? Clemson doesn't seem to have as sure of a landing spot, and that's no shot at Clemson. I think they end up in the Power 2, but I don't know that they're settled in with a conference just yet, like I believe Florida State is with the Big Ten. And so would Clemson join you? SMU is joining on July 1st, Cal Stanford in the early part of August. Can you get that done before that August 15th deadline? I'm not sure. You'd need multiple teams to do it. I don't know if UNC would join in with you there or not. I don't know how SMU joining on July 1st impacts that. I also know that when asked about it, Commissioner Phillips had no idea why the two other schools were joining later in August. He said, I don't know. That's just the way it worked out. So, of course, we'll take any shots that we can there in that direction. But at the end of the day, this is coming. And I've been telling you, again, that this video is not meant to be a victory lap, but it is meant to enforce what we have been saying for over a year. Our first conference realignment video was in February of 2023. And so we are now 16 months later, and our message has not changed. Have details shifted, have timelines shifted, have perspectives shifted based on what's happened, what we've learned, the more and more info that's come out? Absolutely. But what we told you back in the summer of last year was that Florida State was likely going to announce their exit from the conference by the 2025 season, by that deadline for that 2025 year. And I still think that that's coming. I still think that that's happening. And it sounds a lot like Pate says that that's probably happening too. Remember the last part of his argument, the last part of his call out, the last part of his podcast was that he wouldn't be surprised at all if this happened, if news of this happened, if the breaking news, the stories, the Ross Dellinger articles, the Brett McMurphy articles, if they all came out before the season started. We're 8-9 weeks away from that. And so I guess we'll just keep our eyes peeled and see if Florida State does something massive. I would say there's a better chance that it happens than it doesn't. I have kind of been of the belief that we will not play the 2025 season in the ACC. I might be wrong on that. I might have to eat some crow for that. If that's the case, great. hopefully we don't play the 2026 season in there as well. But I feel pretty good about Florida State getting out pretty soon. I don't know how long the legal stuff goes on, but as far as announcing an exit, announcing a departure, I kind of agree with Pate here. Wouldn't be surprised at all. And what we've been telling you is that it will likely come before the season kicks off in Dublin. We're excited about getting to Dublin. We're excited about all that stuff for sure. We've tried to cover this as close as we can from not only the legal side, but this side as well. But if you've missed any of those legal updates or you missed our most recent one, Florida State got a couple of wins against the ACC in court. You can click the video on the screen right now to get caught up.